Today's real demonstration is just to focus on giving you guys a better understanding or a first look into really like what is Intacct. What you might have heard it through some of the outlets, articles, or through other colleagues in the industry. But really, what is Intacct? And then today we're going to kind of start to dive into some of those functionalities, showing you reports, some of the drill down capabilities, and some of the features of Intacct. So as I always like to kind of start off with really fundamentally what is Intacct? Well, Intacct is cloud-based. So essentially wherever we are, we're going to be able to access this data, whether it is on your desktop, laptop, if you're at your office or if you're at a coffee shop or even on your mobile device, you're going to be able to access the data you're looking for, as well as those reports and insight information you might be wanting to see. And when you look at Intacct, a lot of the workflows might change a little bit to the traditional on-prem system. Because it is cloud-based, it allows us to easily communicate with other data silos, such as integrations to different programs, such as a Procore, a Sage TimberScan, or excuse me, a TimberScan, Sage Tool Ops, Sage Field Ops, some of them to mention. All right. Also providing us more visibility into that data, because those two systems have what we call an open API. So it allows a lot of information easily getting passed back and forth. So when we start to talk about Intacct as well, a lot of people, I started here, think that Intacct is a new product. And really that's far from the truth. Intacct's been around since about 1997. And it has been an internet accounting solution for those years. What it really has done is when Sage made the acquisition, they recognized that the construction marketplace needs that internet, that cloud-based accounting. That's the next step. So when we teamed up with Intacct, we didn't create a whole new separate part of the program. We took existing functionality and enhanced those specifically for the construction division. So when you look at this screen on here, then a lot of information might stand out at you. You're going to have your basic core functionality, your fundamentals such as your reporting, but that's when we start to get to this green text. This is where we start to enhance on existing features that have already been in the system to that construction marketplace. All right. And just like that, again, I rather go right into the platform and look at what we look at Intacct. So again, I mentioned that it's cloud-based, so we're going to be able to access this on a browser URL. Something else to note is because Intacct is cloud-based, what this allows us to do is roll out automatic updates. So essentially, no longer the days that you have to log into the platform, update those systems to the latest version. You can simply log in. You'll see on your home tab, it will display, well, in this case, we just went through a recent update on the 10th, but it's going to display what that update is. And essentially, you log out on Friday, log in on Monday, you're on the latest version, no downtime on you. Going back to kind of talking about some of those vendors as well, is what that actually helps provide us is because all of those vendors have that seamless integration, they've actually gone through a lot of testing. If they're on the Sage Intacct Marketplace website, they've gone through testing to essentially say anytime one of these automatic integrations come out within Intacct, that you guys on the end won't see any disturbances in terms of that integration. So work will seamlessly flow back and forth. There again is no downtime or anything that we have to schedule with the IT manager. All right. So what I want to look at is a few things really with navigation in the systems, and then we're going to go into some of these dashboards and reporting kind of fields. But when we talk about navigation, I always like to bring up security, right? That's such a crucial part of our business. Is we want to limit who has the visibility to see what. And because I'm logged in right now as an admin user, I'm going to be able to see and access all the different modules within Sage Intacct. Do you know another license type would be a project manager? And in that role, you might want to have the individuals will only be able to see things like creating a purchase order, or even creating a new project. They're not going to even have visibility into your general ledger or accounts payable, accounts receivables, or any of those fields that you don't want them to see. Same thing with your last license, which is your employee license. Really, what I look at this more as is this acts as more of a viewer. So with an employee licenses, users can add in their own time and their own expenses, and that's pretty much about it. What they'll also be able to do is be able to see or view different reports or graphs or charts or dashboards that you want to give them visibility to do. So this could be a great way to help your owners get visibility into it, but they're not going to really necessarily need a full license to edit or add detail. They can delegate a lot of that process, right? And with these different license types and different roles, a lot of times people are going to want to create their own unique favorites tab. So depending upon your action, these favorites, which are starred over here on the left-hand side of the screen, these are going to be your common go day in, day out task items. They don't just necessarily have to be modules like you see with a project contracts, invoices, and different fields. They could be specific reports, such as my WIP report or an AP aging by job. Again, just to give you some examples. They could also be these dashboards that we're going to touch more on in a moment, which is the project performance, the CFO dashboard that I created as well. So again, just to help expedite the process so you're not having to click through a bunch of menus. One of the last ways I want to navigate in here is over on the search, where this really comes into play. It could be a great scenario for a vendor calls you, says, I have a question on a particular invoice. And typically you'd have to open up a purchase order module, go click into that, try to find the correct one you're looking for, and it'll take a little time. Sometimes they give you the wrong number or whatever. So you could either go into the search, tell the system to search across the entire platform, or narrow down the search field. So if you know the invoice or the bill that you want to look for, you can search by the number or even the vendor name if you wanted to. And then what the system will do is just that. It goes out and searches for either the entire system or that module, depending upon what we saw, and pulled up the criteria that we found. So in this case, we found that bill 1133. And now we're able to go ahead and view that to see any of the line item or any of the details. And a few things to highlight that could stand out to you is right here on the top ribbon. You're going to kind of see this theme throughout Intacct. It really gives you a lot of this information right at the top, right when you first look into it. And then as you need to glance down to the different entries, the vendors' names, all the details of in this particular case, the bill can be viewed by just simply scrolling down. But again, a lot of that high-level information will be summarized at the top, such as, have we received payment on this? How they're overdue? What's the holdup? Where are we at with this one? Again, just summarize it. The other thing that you might notice is over here on the right-hand side of your screen is I was able to put a side-by-side image of the actual invoice or the bill next to this bill here, leveraging these attachment files. So again, you can get a quick visual glance of be able to reference what you're looking at and what's the correct information that you see on screen over here on the left. Now in this particular case, you might notice that this could be assigned to the incorrect job. And what I can do is either A, if I have the rights, I can go in here and make any edits, any changes I need to. Again, pending that you have or set up those users with the rights. Or B, even if we're dealing with, say, an owner and they've reviewed something and now they want to delegate this action, down here on the bottom is what we call Intacct Collaboration. And what this will allow those users to do is this allows each of those users to be able to do an inter-company communication. So I can message, in this case, Michael Scott saying, hey, what's going on with this project? It's assigned to the incorrect job. We need to take care of that action, right? And a couple things happen is, first and foremost, right here on the top, just like you see this one in the message center, that refers to the number of new messages that are available to me or addressed to me, all right? Other thing can also happen, Michael would also receive an email notification. And the nice thing with these email notifications is it's not generic information. In the body of the email, it'll actually address the question. So in this case, it says, From Jared, Michael Scott, this is assigned to the incorrect job, please fix. And then again, not to take you to a generic homepage and you have to find this bill and go out and search and do all these things. There will be a link in that email that takes you directly to this bill. So again, just to really ensure or even maximize that you're getting the question addressed and answered as quickly as possible. All right. So a couple things when we're going to jump back into our dashboards. So you can see I have a list of these different dashboards here, and I've delegated to create a couple of them by user role. And just know, just like all the modules inside the system, these dashboards can also be protected or assigned to specific individuals. So when you were looking at this list, you might see an executive team. Well, not necessarily I want to have a project manager being able to have visibility to what the executive team does. So I'm able to delegate on my setting side who has the visibility to see each of these different dashboards. Now, when a user has that visibility to a dashboard or a standard dashboard you might create, they can always make these however they want to see them. Meaning I could change columns around. I could even duplicate this and make it my own so I'm not or disturbing anyone else's dashboard. So again, it's just a view of different data that we have. And when we start to get to the nitty-gritty of dashboards, they're really made up of three major components. This top field here, these are what we call our performance cards. So look at this as, at a glance, tell me how we're doing on a specific metric, right? So again, in the case I have on screen, we got revenue, operational expenses. They could also be things from your how many active projects, how many new projects that we have this month, how many employees do we have? Again, just to give you some example, but these are metrics that you guys can create within the system to then be able to, at a glance, see how we're doing, all right? Underneath that is going to be your traditional report, or excuse me, your charts. These really give more of an expanded upon than your performance cards, but it's another visual indication of how you might be doing on something. So whether that is your project performance, whether that is estimate versus actual, or any of those fields. Again, visual cues to be able to see how we're doing on specific data. And then over on the right and underneath it are your traditional reports. Kind of think like Crystal Reports-esque. Intacct does have its own built-in reporting tool that makes it really easy for us to be able to organize reports out. But essentially, once we have these reports, all of those reports that you use today could be included onto your dashboard. So whether if you're wanting to see a P&L by location, so if you have multiple locations, or divisions if you wanted to see that, could also be a balance sheet if you wanted to see that. Another example of these dashboards would be when we're going over to our performance cards. So over here, I'm able to see again, same kind of layout, if you will, but again, the detail behind it's now changed. So in this report, I'm able to see, you know, a basic overview of all of the projects that we have underneath or in this particular organization. So in the case of La Quinta, I can see our contracted amount, what we've estimated it out as. You could even see any commitments and even costs. So in the case of, say, a project manager calls you and says, hey, there's a bill on my project I don't recognize, it's $12,000, go ahead and find that and look this up. Sometimes they give you the bill number, we can go through search. Other times we're going to have to kind of manually go out and find that charge. So in here, I'm able to click on that 275,241, drilling into where does the system come up with that number? And I'm able to see here is that general ledger report of all the cost of accounts. Under here, you can see now I see the $12,000 charge. And again, I'm able to drill into that to see greater detail. So if I expand on that a little bit, you can see that it's brought us back to that same bill, right? And from here, you're able to make any edits or any changes pending that you have the rights. So again, the takeaway here is really to show there's multiple ways to get to that same endpoint. There's different scenarios that might arise, and Intacct will help us tailor those different scenarios. All right. So now that we have these dashboards, these reports, the way we want them, and we have this look and feel, it now takes us the time to be able to break down that information or slice and dice this reports the way we want to see it. So currently what we're doing here is I am logged in at the top level, which is essentially running a consolidation of all of these other entities, these divisions, entities of our organization, all up to the top rise to summarize where we sit. And if I wanted to switch over to this Timberline general contracting side of things, I'm able to drill into just that specific entity, and you can see that the dashboard is the exact same, but the data behind it is now changed. So no longer we have 20 active jobs, we go from 11 active jobs, right? And so again, it's just a way to be able to break out this information. And if you wanted to take it additional step further, is we have what we call dimensions. And these dimensions, look at these as a way to tag source transactions, purchase orders, projects, bills, invoices, any of those fields, to tag those in a way where we can then automatically report off of. So for instance, if I go back into this top ribbon here, you can see some of these dimensions could be my departments. So if I wanted to track how's the construction division doing versus service, or even if I wanted to go over and I had multiple locations scattered throughout the U.S., I'm able to look at the reports to see, well, how is Dallas doing versus Houston? Well, it looks like Houston's doing a lot better market. What are we going to do to help get Dallas up to that same platform? So again, it's just different ways where we can organize these data points, and then we can be able to slice and dice that in a way that you guys want to be able to view that in a reporting way. So as we scroll through this, a couple of things I always like to bring up, and with these dashboards, these reports, we don't want to look at Intacct as being that kind of silo of information that you might have with your on-prem systems. Because we have those open APIs, we're able to communicate with different platforms a lot easier, and we're just enhancing on that as time goes on. And what I mean by that was I was able to create, based upon some recommendations of a friend of mine of a general contracting company who wanted to see some unique things, out of the box things that might not be in the normal workflow. And I was able to do that. Is he wanted to see what the weather was on that specific day. And then as this loads up, also want to see any cameras that he had on site just in case an incident happens. So what I was able to do was build him just his own personal dashboard that showed those two side by side. So again, it's really just meant to get the brain thinking of it doesn't necessarily just have to be data that only sits inside Intacct. Intacct helps allow us to communicate to all these different data hubs to make these personalized views to you guys. All right. So next I want to go into kind of some of the project side of things, really quickly just talking about how to create a new project, being able to view these projects in a different way. And when we look at these menus, whether this is at my projects, my purchase orders, contracts, subcontracts, or even change orders, when we look at this information in those different ways, you're going to see the same kind of column row structure, right? And what I'm able to do here on each of those different modules is create these own views or queries that I want to be able to constantly go to. So for instance, if I wanted to see all of my in-progress jobs, I have that as just a quick click to show me every in-progress job. Or even if I want to see any job that's bidding, I could also have it on that stage. Or even if I want to show me all of my warehouse location jobs, I'm able to quickly click at that button. All of these views could also be added to your dashboard if you wanted to. And you can also make any edits or any changes that you want to those existing ones. So in this case, you can see all the different options that we have out of the box. Again, something you might want to add on to your dashboards could be purchase orders that are posted but not paid, to be able to view that information there. All right. In this case, again, a lot of different options. And some that I want to talk to you down here are these little red stars that I have down here. These go into what we have, which are called smart rules and smart events, right? So where this really comes into play is if I actually go into a project, we're going to use the Sam Jackson Hall, for example, today. So as we go into this particular project, again, you can have your normal traditional fields. What's the project name, project number, category. But where we come into those smart rules and the smart events is these fields over here are two custom, air quotes, custom fields that I've created, where I simply tell the system under your admin settings, what module, projects, what tab, project info, and what type of field do you want it to be. In this case, I've created this as an alphanumeric, and I'm tracking these fields. So what this is really aimed to show you is it doesn't necessarily have to be out-of-the-box information that you're able to report off of or view in that way. It could be something that is unique to your organization, a custom field that you captured, right? Where this could also come into play, again, elaborating on some of those smart rules, smart events, is smart rules act as kind of a guideline. So when we're creating a new project, we can help require or add specific workflows or fields to be captured within here. So in this case, if I always want a owner project number every time I'm going in here and setting this up, I can make this field required. So if a user tried to hit save without submitting those fields, the system's going to go ahead and give you a notification of that you're missing that information, right? Now, where smart events come into play, they act a little bit different. These act as more of a tool to help automate notification, right? So think of it as if, then what? So if this project is currently under, say, bidded stage, and it goes to in progress or awarded, then I want you to automatically email the project manager that we have located here that you have a new project available to you, and they're able to, at a click or a glance, go right into Intacct to be able to view that new project. All right. So again, that's that kind of if-then logic that we have within Intacct. All right. Scrolling through here, another question comes up all the time when we're dealing with our cost codes that are specific to projects. Absolutely, Intacct has the master cost codes as well as project-specific cost codes, very similar to what you're doing today, as well as has the ability to capture and record your estimates. It is not an estimating tool, so if you guys are on Sage 100 Basic and you're using that basic estimating tool, it will not replace that tool, but it will act as a way to be able to capture your budget or your forecasting when we're looking at budget versus actual, or where we stand with that. Okay. With a lot of this information, as you know, Intacct's going to summarize that key data, but really, in case of an estimate, it's made up of a lot more components. So in here, we have an entire breakout of our estimate based upon all the cost codes, labors, hours, materials we have. Now, when you're getting an estimate in, a lot of systems might have, you could be using Sage estimating, which would flow into Intacct, or some people will also be able to have their estimate get populated into Excel into a CSV format, and Intacct would be able to import all of that data from that CSV format into Intacct, so you don't have to go through and manually key all these different fields. Now, when we're dealing kind of a little bit with project managers, we wanted to create kind of a center hub that they could go and look at and see kind of the status of a project without having to go into different modules to be able to see, you know, where any purchase orders have on there or any subcontracts or anything like that might apply to. And so we created this purchase and commitments fields, which will outline any of those commitments that, or even those purchase orders that apply on this particular project. So in here, I could see all of the projects. I could also see any subcontracts that we have on the project, the stages of those subcontracts under pending, which is mean nothing has been processed, no invoices or anything has been created towards that. But has any change orders affected that initial contract, and then by what amount? So again, able to get kind of a breakout of key information that we have from here. Okay. So kind of jumping a little bit around, what I wanted to show you is there is a contracts page. We're able to go in there and view all of the contracts, see all of the contract. You're also able to notice that it has that same view as projects field. But really what I want to use some of the time to go through is more on the bill side. Once a bill has been entered in or we have that invoice that is ready to pay, how will Intacct go ahead and pay those out? So when we go to the payment process, again, I can view all of the bills that need to be paid by a kind of that filter, posted when not paid, and then you can either one at a time pay each of those invoices or bills out. Or B, what you can do is go into this Pay Bills module and actually be able to see the list of all of the bills in the system that need to be paid. And a few things to take away from here, when we look at filtering, there's a lot of ability to create really candidly whatever filter you want to create in the system. For instance, common one would be, I want to pay people by job. So you could create a filter that way. Another one we have an example of is each of the vendors are assigned a day of the week. And on that specific day, that vendor knows I get paid every Monday, and vendor B knows they get paid every Tuesday. So when we're paying them out, we want to create those filters based on that, and we're able to do so. So again, just to give you a couple ideas of the abilities to create around the filtering, but when it comes to applying payment, we're going to pull in whatever the preferred payment on the vendor record would be, whether that is check, ACH, credit card, cash, however we do that. Again, all those fields will be captured in Intacct, and then we can run, in the case of the ACH, all directly out of Intacct. Now, scrolling down to we're ready to process or go through payment, you can also see that there is vendor compliance. So Intacct has vendor compliance and lien waivers. So if someone has not paid, or we have a lien waiver that is overdue, it can come up with 3 different types, or even a compliance that is overdue, you can come up with 3 different types of compliance around that. It could A, just be, hey, I just want to track this. I don't want you to come up with a warning. Just track this date. It could be B, what we see on screen, which is, hey, there's a warning. I want to let you know that this is out of compliance. Something's going on. And those users can click on at a glance, click directly on that to see whatever might be out of compliance record or the lien waivers or anything like that. And then the last one would be just an error, which essentially will say you cannot pay these parties, this individual, this vendor, until this compliance issue is taken or resolved. Okay. So again, that's part of the settings that you guys would be able to set up. But when we go down into the actual payment, I'm going to use just this A1 Electric for $6,000 today, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Pay Now. When we go out and pay those invoices, again, at the end of the week when you want to run, do a check run of all the different payments that we need to, I'd be able to go into Print Checks, selecting the check style that we have in the system, and as you see, here is that A1 Electric. I'm able to hit Print and go ahead, and from there, let me actually hit my bank account and go ahead and hit Print. And on my end, it's going to come up with void, simply just demo data. Obviously, you guys wouldn't have that in your live version, but if it's printed out incorrectly, you can always void the checks out. If you're now time to go out and it has printed correctly, everything looks good, you can go ahead and hit Confirm, and then you're good to go. It's going to remove that off of that list. Now, where a lot of these come into play is, think of a lot of the on-prem systems kind of have these different module silos, data silos, and it makes reporting quite difficult. With Intacct, it's a lot more, for lack of better words, linear, allowing us to quickly be able to see once an action item has been taken care of, we're able to report off that and view that in a meaningful way to you or what you want to see, so that information is live. So going down into our posted payments, and I wanted to be able to see all the posted payments that we have in the system, you can see here right at the top that we just completed by check, there is that $6,000 charge to A1 Electric, right? So again, it's able to get us that real-time information insight that you guys are looking for to be able to make the best decisions for the business as possible, right? Now, one of the last things before I know we're quite ahead of schedule, but before I turn it over to the Q&A side of things that I wanted to show you is actually going down into your cash management module. So Intacct can absolutely run reconciliations directly from it, as well as credit card reconciliations. But if you so choose, you can actually connect your bank account with Sage Intacct. So on here, I've gone in and I've logged into my demo bank account, and I'm able to see all my withdrawals, deposits. The thing I always want to mention here, you need to check with your bank account provider. Things like, I think it was Chase wanted to ask a customer to have a certain tier with them or a level with them, however they view that. So just check with them to make sure that you can use that functionality, but able to see all of this information live and in real time. All right. So with that being said, again, I know this was just a quick high-level overview to give you kind of a little insight into some of that financial reporting capabilities, creating those dashboards, having those drill down capabilities, and even talking about some of the smart rules and smart events. But with that being said, any questions that you guys have, please go ahead and put them into chat before I turn it over to Amy. I'm happy to stay on for the next few or so minutes to address them if you are hopping off. Just want to thank you for your time. But Amy, I think you have one quick announcement or update. Is that right?
We just wanted to let everyone know that's on the call that we are holding a Sage Construction Management webinar on December 5th at, I believe it's at noontime. Let me just double check, sorry. And just anybody that's on the call is welcome to attend. You will be seeing an email about that. We've seen a lot of interest in Sage Construction Management since it launched in mid-October. So we want to educate as many of our customers about it as we can.
Absolutely.
Let's just see real quick. December 5th at noon. Yes, it's at noon. Does anyone have any questions for Jared related to Intacct? Quiet group today. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. Like I said at the beginning of today's session, I will be sending out a link to today's recording, and you are welcome to share that with anyone that you think might be interested. Your account rep will be copied on that email. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to them. And if you want a more in-depth demo, we can definitely schedule that, and Jared and whoever your account manager is can walk you through specific questions and anything that might pertain specifically to your type of business. Thank you, Sonia. Anybody have anything? No? Okay. Thank you for joining us today. We do appreciate you taking time out of your day. We know everyone's busy, so thank you once again. Thank you, Jared. That was a great presentation, and I hope everyone has a nice holiday season.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everyone.